Hey everyone. Welcome back to our channel, English Speaking Practice for Beginners. Today we have a really important topic, making polite requests in English.
Yes, polite requests are a big part of everyday conversations. Being able to ask for things in a kind and respectful way helps build good relationships, whether you're talking to friends, family, or even people at work.
We'll guide you through some common phrases and expressions you can use to make polite requests. So, if you want to learn how to sound more polite and confident in English, you're in the right place.
Ready to get started? Let's dive into our first part.
Alright, let's begin with understanding why being polite is so important. When we're polite, we show respect and consideration. It makes people feel good and appreciated, and they're more likely to help us.
Exactly. Imagine you're at a cafe, and instead of saying, "Give me a coffee," you say, "Could I please have a coffee?" The polite way sounds friendlier and shows respect to the person you're talking to.
So, being polite can make a big difference in how people respond to you. Now, let's look at some of the most common ways to make polite requests in English.
Let's start with some useful phrases. These phrases will help you make requests politely and clearly. We'll go over each one and give examples so you can understand how they're used.
Could you please is a polite and common way to ask someone to do something. It sounds respectful and gentle. For example, you could say, "Could you please pass me the salt?"
Notice how adding please makes the request sound even more polite. Could you please is a great phrase to use in both formal and informal situations.
Let's say you're in a library and you need help finding a book. You could say to the librarian, "Could you please help me find this book?"
That's right. Could you please is polite and shows respect, especially when you're asking for assistance. Would you mind is another polite way to make a request. It's a bit more formal and very respectful. You can use it when you want to be extra polite.
Yes, and here's how you'd use it. Say you're in a movie theater and someone in front of you is blocking your view. You could politely say, "Would you mind moving a little?" Example practice.
Another example could be if you're in a meeting and you want someone to explain something. You might say, "Would you mind explaining that again?"
Great. Saying "would you mind" is helpful in both formal and informal situations, especially when you want to be very polite. Great. Saying "would you mind" is helpful in both formal and informal situations, especially when you want to be very polite.
Now, let's look at some tips to make these requests sound natural. Sometimes, people sound robotic when they use polite phrases. Let's make sure that doesn't happen.
Remember, your tone of voice matters just as much as the words you choose. If you say, "Could you please help me?" with a flat tone, it might not sound as polite.
So, try to sound friendly and relaxed. Smile a little when you ask. People respond better to a friendly tone.
You can also add words like maybe or a little to make requests sound even softer. For example, instead of saying, "Could you please move?" you could say, "Could you maybe move a little?"
Adding these small words makes your requests sound less direct and more polite. It shows you're not demanding but kindly asking.
Now, let's go through some specific situations where you might need to make polite requests. We'll show you how to handle each one.
Let's say you're lost and need help with directions. You could say, "Excuse me, could you please tell me how to get to the train station?"
That's a good one. And if you want to be even softer, you could say, "Would you mind showing me the way to the train station?" It's polite and respectful.
Imagine you're working on a project and you need some help from a coworker. You might say, "Would you mind helping me with this report?"
Or you could say, "Could you please take a look at this when you have time?" Notice how both options are polite and respectful.
Now, let's talk about ordering food. Instead of saying, "I want a sandwich," you could say, "Could I please have a sandwich?"
Exactly. Adding "could I please" makes it sound friendly and polite, which is great when you're talking to someone providing a service.
Another way to make a polite request is by using if. For example, "If you don't mind, could you?" Or, "If it's not too much trouble, could you?"
Yes. If softens your request and makes it sound less demanding. It's a good way to show you're considerate of the other person's time and effort.
Let's say you're in an office and you need your colleagues' help with a task. You could say, "If it's not too much trouble, could you help me with this?"
Perfect. It's polite, respectful, and shows appreciation for their time.
Let's go over some common mistakes to avoid when making polite requests.
If you say, "Do this" or "give me that," it sounds rude. Always add words like "please" and "could you" to sound more polite.
Yes, tone and body language are very important. Even a polite phrase can sound rude if your tone is harsh or unfriendly. Keep your tone soft and relaxed.
Avoid using commands. Don't say, I want this. Instead say, could I please have this? It's more polite and respectful.
Now, it's time to practice. We'll give you some scenarios, and you try to make polite requests. Here's the first one.
Imagine you're at a coffee shop and you want a cup of coffee. How would you ask for it politely?
Good. You could say, could I please have a cup of coffee? Or, would you mind getting me a coffee? Now, you're at work, and you need your coworker to review a document. How would you ask?
Great. You could say, would you mind reviewing this document when you have a moment? Or if you have time, could you please look over this document? Alright. We've covered a lot today, everything from basic polite phrases to advanced tips on sounding natural. Making polite requests is all about respect, tone, and choosing the right words.
Practice these phrases, and you'll sound more polite and friendly in your everyday conversations. Remember, being polite can make a big difference in how people respond to you.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more videos.
We'll see you next time on Speak Fluent English. Until then, keep practicing, and remember to stay polite in your requests. Bye.
Bye.